Well, I just got back from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I absolutely loved this film. From the beginning, middle, and end, every moment of this film was just a masterclass of cinema. James Gunn went into the kitchen and he went ham. He cooked this film. He cooked this film to the right temperature, to the right flavor. He grabbed all the seasonings, he threw it into this film, and he made a masterpiece of a film course buffet. Like, it's just, this film definitely felt like Avengers Endgame when it comes to the Guardians, because there was a lot of things that were set up in the past two films and also in the holiday special and Infinity War and Endgame with the Guardians. Just a lot of paying off, but also bringing this conclusion, but send off to these beloved characters that we've been on this journey with since 2014. The relationship with these characters, the bond of family bond they have, and here's the thing, they're not like family related. I mean, minus Gamora and Nebula, but even with that, it's just, okay, so the first film is about a mother's love, the second film is about a father's love, and the third film is about self-love, really about the self itself, like a reflection of yourself, and really facing your past and letting go of your past and evolving from that, and becoming something more, dealing with your past and just facing it head on and being able to move forward. Like, it's just, and I love how in the beginning of this whole trilogy, we start off with Peter Quill and his grandpa, and at the end of this trilogy, literally the last post-credit scene of this film, we end it with Peter Quill and his grandpa. So I love how that was just like, it was like Chris Evans, Captain America, and Petty, Steve, having that final that dance they've been wanting since the first of Captain America film. This film just, bro, like the action. Okay, let's get this out the way. The action was on point. The humor was, it delivered every moment, and that's usually a problem with the Guardians, especially with the second one. They really took it seriously. They kept it very mature, something you would read from a Marvel Comics back in the early 2000s. It just, everything about this film I just love. But let's really get into it. So let's talk about Rocket's backstory and how tragic it is, man. Like, if you followed me on my TikTok, Cinema Fans, you know that sometimes I would post videos of my dog Harper. He's a beagle, but even though, yes, Rocket is a raccoon, but the young version of Rocket, his face looks so similar to my dog's Harper's face, and seeing him going through what he goes through in this film, as being plucked from his own breed of family and poked and torn apart, experimented on, the sadness of it, and the innocence in his face, and the vulnerability, and feeling so alone, and being so like, and when they put him in the cage with his friends, we eventually become friends like Lila and whatnot, and Floor, and I think he named himself the Tooth or something like that, Teeth or whatever. But there's this moment where he's in there, he finally gets into the cage and meets them, and you see that he has still those stitches from his head and his stomach, and he's just sitting there just like, and it looked like my dog, and I was like, oh, I just wanted to go in there. Like, it made me so uncomfortable, but I love when a film does that. And that's the great thing about this film altogether. It has the emotions from the laughter, the humor, the happiness, but also the tragedy, the action. You feel for these characters, our loved ones. They literally are a family. We've been on this adventure with them since day one. But like, seeing young Rocket going through what he went through, but also be manipulated at first, thinking and the thing is, like, the High Evolutionary, he's kind of playing with him, making him prop him up, saying, we're going to do great things. We're going to live in this fairy tale, counter Earth, if you will. But turns out that's not the case. He manipulates him. It really hits home for me and my past life. And it just, This film, I mean, I was crying for the most tragic moments and serious and really just heart-wrenching moments, but also for the great moments too. And the backstory of Rocket. But here's the great thing about not just Rocket, but every character from all the Guardians and also the side characters had their moment to shine and had either a conclusion or a send-off. And I love how they kind of left me very satisfied with the Guardians and where they're at and how they kind of go their separate ways. But also it kind of confirms that Rocket Raccoon is like the actual main secret character, the secret main character of the Guardians and leader of the Guardians. So let's talk about the cons of this film, because yes, no movie's perfect, right? So there are really two big cons for me for this film, and it really is nitpicking, and it really doesn't bother me. It doesn't take me out of this film. This film never takes me out of it. Like a lot of superhero films, comic book films, and really a lot of the Marvel films lately have been kind of, I don't know, just hasn't had the serious tone. Also appreciate the F-bomb they actually give in this film. We actually get an F-bomb. I literally, when Peter said get in that fucking car, like the whole theater just clapped and everything. It was so funny, but it was also the humor. There's this moment where they're at this organic station and they're fighting off these like I don't know, like these Sting-looking henchmen, and they're fighting. The Guardians are fighting them off, and Mantis is like going to each individual and using her telepath or whatever it's called, and she says, "You're a cat," and then it says meow. Kind of remind me of Doja Cat from that Galaga thing they just recently did. But anyway, my point is, I love how, okay, for instance, my two cons is that I think the High Evolutionary, he was okay villain. He wasn't the worst villain of the MCU, but he's not very compelling either. He's just a mad scientist, a typical mad scientist stereotype you would see in any comic book film, action film, or any other film. Adam Warlock also was super depowered, but they make that very clear. And that's the thing. Even the things you wish that happened, they gave you the answer for it. Like the reason why Adam Warlock was not at his prime and not fully powered is because he was taken out of his shuttle thing way earlier before he was ready. And and I still love what they did with him. He was there, but he was there only to serve a purpose later down the line in another, probably the Avengers films. But that's that. But here's the thing: they depowered Adam Warlock, but they also did justice to Drax. And my biggest pet peeve with Drax is that from the comics, he's very strong, he's very powerful, but in the movies, he's very depowered, very short-sighted. But there's this moment in this film where him, Nebula, and Mantis are on High Evolutionary's ship to go save Peter because they think he's still there. And they're trying to get into the ship because they're going to space, so they're losing breath and they're about to die. And when he starts literally going head first into the door, but Drax, that moment where he barged down, literally slams down that door to get into the spaceship, and that just showed how powerful and strong he is. And also there's this moment in the beginning of the film where Adam Warlock is at nowhere and trying to get Rocket, and him, Drax, and Adam Warlock go head to head, which is kind of cool because if you read the Infinity War run, the comic book run, that's like a sequel to the Infinity Gauntlet that's based off the whole Infinity Saga from MCU. It's great because it's kind of like from the comics, the page, and I love how, and they definitely did deliver. But I love this film, man. I mean, the song selection in this film was top notch. I forgot the term of it, but I love when a film takes music that they use and actually implement it into the scene itself, like it's actually there. They do it for the first two films, even in the Infinity War and Endgame, but they do it again in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and they do it very well. But not just the song selection, but the score. And the one thing I'll say I love about the Guardians films is the score is always fire. It's a hit, and they do it 10 times better in this film. And I love how each film feels like it's its own film, and even the third one feels more detached from the first two, which is a good thing. And I just love this film, man. and it gets you in the feels. You feel for our Guardians, their family, and I love the send-off. I don't want to get full into spoiler. I know I spoiled a lot in this film already, but you know, when it comes to, I love how, you know, Rocket became the leader of the Guardians. I like how Mantis is going off to doing her own thing, becoming her own person. Nebula taking over nowhere and having her own home, and Gamora finding a home, and Peter being reunited with his grandpa, like I said, and kind of closes off the whole trilogy. And I love how they said that he's going to return, the legendary Star-Lord. But man, I love this film. I know James Gunn's never going to see this, but James Gunn, if you ever see this video, this review, I want you to know thank you for delivering such a great trilogy of characters that was not very popular. Like Iron Man wasn't popular either, but like the Guardians were never talked about. They weren't popular, but James Gunn managed to take these unpopular characters from the comics and make them such a household name for everyone, and just do a great job as a trilogy. I love this film. I give this film a 9.8 out of 10, and it'll change over time, but it is a 9.8 out of 10 for me. Tell me your thoughts. Please subscribe for more, and thank you for watching.